Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Full Armor of God, and today I wanted to tell you about a message that I had received back on March the 3rd about a warning of an earthquake out in Seattle, Washington, as well as the land falling into the ocean around the Snohomish, Washington areas, as well as, I believe, the beginnings of these tremors leading into a greater magnitude earthquake. I will play this video that details the information about the earthquake that I believe happened back on April the 7th. And I am playing this before the prophetic word. And then there will be another video at the end that will explain to you the devastation that could happen to the Pacific Northwest if there is a major earthquake on the Cascadian Fault Zone.
Magnitude 4.4 earthquake yesterday, Saturday afternoon, at about 7:40 p.m. local time. USGS downgraded it to a magnitude 4.1.
I believe this video from Mary Greeley News YouTube channel is a precursor to the prophetic word I received back in March about the earthquake that is going to take place off the coast of Washington State. This video talks about tremors occurring in Seattle, and this was posted on April 7th.
Alright, so here we got the Cascadia Basin. This is the location of that earthquake, and over here is the state of Washington. Drawn out in blue is the Cascadia subduction zone. This here is the Cascadia Basin, as they call it. This blue line is a major tectonic boundary where the Juan de Fuca plate is subducting beneath the North American plate. This subduction zone is responsible for a potential source of a very large earthquake, often referred to as megathrust earthquakes. There's always the potential for a tsunami from a large earthquake. The sudden movement of the seafloor during these earthquakes can dispatch large volumes of water, potentially leading to powerful tsunamis. The Cascadia subduction zone has produced massive earthquakes, with the last major event occurring in 1700. Do I have it marked out here? It actually ruptured, over here, right there. People probably think that it was out there in the ocean, but it wasn't. It was actually in the bay here. People also don't realize that the mountain building, the hills, the cliffs that have built up since the 1700 earthquake, if there's another large earthquake, those are going to flatten out. The land is going to move west. In a quick, sudden movement. A lot of that land would end up underwater.
Here's the message that I received from the Lord back on March the 3rd, and it was posted on March the 4th about this earthquake and tsunami on the west coast of Washington State near Seattle and Snohomish. Now for the message given from the Lord God on March 3rd, 2024. Quaking, a great quaking. The plateau will be forsaken in the USA. There is great trouble in the land. It is shifting. There is moving sand. It is treacherous in and amongst the low-lying areas. The valleys of Snohomish where there are no mountains is a land below sea level. The grade is low with tributaries interjecting. The land is intersecting the waterways. The low grade of the elevation is making way for more seepage into the land itself. It sits on a shelf. A plate of sorts cuts through the plateau. It separates far below the land's surface. There is a great crevice forming, destabilizing the already moistened land mass. With time and weather changes, the land is taking on more water from storms and snowfall accumulations. Seattle and the spheres will be shaking. The Cascadian fault zone is reawakening. It is twisting and turning. The landmass is yearning for a more solid foundation. It's moving quickly. The water is degrading the land of Snohomish, Washington. Some of it will be falling into the ocean. The Pacific will claim it, for the land is unstable.
While the San Andreas fault line is much more active, it really pales in comparison to the Cascadia subduction zone fault line that extends from Northern California to British Columbia. This is because the San Andreas fault line has an upper limit of how powerful it can get. Every fault line has an upper limit, and the San Andreas fault line caps off at about an 8.2 on the Richter scale. The Cascadia subduction zone earthquake can go to at least a 9.0, and potentially much higher. That might not seem too different, but because earthquakes are measured on a logarithmic scale, a full point higher can be many times more powerful. To put this in perspective, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake will typically only last a few seconds, a magnitude 7 earthquake for about 15 seconds, a magnitude 8 earthquake for about 2 minutes, and a magnitude 9 earthquake for at least 4 minutes. That 1994 earthquake that caused upwards of $50 billion in damages lasted somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds. The Cascadia subduction zone earthquake at a magnitude of 9.0 would shake for much longer. And the reason why the Cascadia subduction zone fault line is so much more powerful has to do with the way the two tectonic plates are meeting. You see, the Juan de Fuca plate is slowly sliding underneath the North American plate, or at least it should be. The reality is that the North American plate is kind of stuck. So the Juan de Fuca plate is continually trying to press under the North American plate. This is creating a lot of built-up pressure and energy in a similar manner as if you were to pull a rubber band all the way back. At some point, that energy will snap and release itself, causing what is likely to be one of the largest earthquakes in modern history. The last time this occurred was on January 26, 1700, and the earthquake is estimated at somewhere between an 8.7 and 9.2 magnitude. If we go back even further, we can see that there is typically an average cycle of about 500 years in between each earthquake. Today, we're at about 322 years into this cycle. This might make you feel safe, but remember that averages are just that, averages. The earliest estimated gap was just 390 years, and there's nothing really that says it can't be sooner than that. In 2009, geologists predicted a 10% to 14% probability that the next Cascadia subduction zone earthquake will produce a magnitude 9.0 earthquake within the next 50 years. Those are not insignificant odds. Today, Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia are scrambling to prepare for the inevitable Cascadia subduction zone earthquake.